The Reagan administration deserves the credit for focusing attention on what Ronald Reagan and George Shultz call the evil scourge of terrorism, a plague spread by depraved opponents of civilization itself in a return to barbarism in the modern age. From its first days, the Reagan administration proclaimed that international terrorism would replace Carter's human rights crusade as the soul of our foreign policy. By 1985, terrorism in the Mideast Mediterranean region was selected as the top story of the year in an AP poll of editors and broadcasters, and concern reached a fever pitch in subsequent months. The U.S. bombing of Libya in April 1986 largely tamed the monster, and in the following years the plague subsided to more manageable proportions as the Soviet Union and its clients retreated in the face of American courage and determination. This is the story according to the preferred account. In fact, the rise and decline of the plague has little relation to anything happening in the world, with one exception. Its rise coincided with the need to mobilize the U.S. population to support the Reaganite commitment to state power and violence. Kremlin-directed international terrorism was a natural device for the Reaganite public relations apparatus. The problem was to frighten the domestic population sufficiently so that they would bear the costs of programs to which they were opposed, while at the same time avoiding direct confrontation with the evil empire itself. That's far too dangerous for us. The solution to the dilemma was to concoct an array of little Satans, tentacles of the great Satan, poised to destroy us, but weak and defenseless, so they can be attacked with impunity. Our yearning for democracy is accompanied by a no less profound yearning for peace, and the media also face the task of historical engineering to establish this required truth. We therefore have phenomena called peace missions and the peace process. These are terms that apply to whatever the United States happens to be doing or advocating at some moment. A headline in the Los Angeles Times in January 1988 reads as follows: Latin Peace Trip by Shultz planned. The subheading describes the contents of the peace trip. Mission would be last-ditch effort to defuse opposition on Contra-aid. The article quotes administration officials who describe the peace mission as the only way to save Contra-aid in the face of growing congressional opposition. In plain English, the peace mission is a last-ditch effort to block peace and to mobilize Congress for what the World Court called the unlawful use of force, now that Washington and its loyal media had succeeded in completely dismantling the unwanted Central American peace plan. The Los Angeles Times described these renewed administration efforts to build support for the resumption of U.S. military aid to Nicaragua's Contras under the headline, Shultz will try to revive Latin peace process. In short, war is peace. Throughout these lectures, I have been discussing some of the means of thought control and the reasons why these measures gain such prominence in democratic systems in which the general population cannot be driven from the political arena by force. The discussion may leave the impression that the system is all-powerful, but that is very far from true. People have significant capacities to resist, and sometimes do, with great effect. Take the case of the Western-backed slaughter in Timor. The media suppressed the terrible events and the complicity of their own governments, but the story nevertheless did finally break through, reaching segments of the public and even Congress. This was the achievement of a few dedicated young people, literally about half a dozen, people whose names will not be known to history, as is generally true of significant actors who have changed the world. Their efforts did not bring an end to the Indonesian terror or the Western support for it, but these efforts did mitigate the violence. Finally, as a result of their work, the Red Cross was allowed limited access, and in this and other ways, tens of thousands of lives were saved. There are very few people in the world who can claim to have achieved so much of human consequence, and the same is true of many other cases. The United States is a much more civilized and decent place than it was 25 years ago. The crisis of democracy that so terrifies elites is very real, and the effects on the society have been profound and extremely healthy with regard to a wide range of issues: racism, environmental concerns, feminism, intervention, and much else. There was no protest when John F. Kennedy sent the U.S. Air Force to attack the rural society of South Vietnam. In contrast, Ronald Reagan was driven underground to clandestine terror in Central America. The climate of opinion and concern had changed outside of elite circles, and the capacity of the state to exercise violence has been correspondingly reduced. The toll of Reaganite terror has been awesome. Tens of thousands of tortured and mutilated bodies, massive starvation and disease and destruction, hundreds of thousands of refugees, and much else. It would have been a great deal worse without the constraints imposed by an aroused population which had found ways to escape the system of indoctrination and had found the courage and the honesty to act. These are no small achievements, again on the part of people whose names will be lost to history. There are ample opportunities to create a more humane and decent world if we choose to use them.
Noam Chomsky, from the 1988 CBC Massey Lectures, Necessary Illusions, Thought Control in Democratic Societies. Noam Chomsky is a professor of linguistics at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. We continue our look at the Massey Lectures of the past decade next Monday with experimental physicist Ursula Franklin. Her lectures are called The Real World of Technology. Ideas Tonight was edited by Paul Gorbold from the original 1988 production by Max Allen. Technical operations by Lorne Tulk. I'm Lister Sinclair. For more information on the Massey Lectures, you can visit our worldwide website at www.radio.cbc.ca. Our email address is ideas@toronto.cbc.ca, or you can write to us at Box 500, Station A, Toronto M5W1EC.